kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
Well, we are back at this shit yet again, and I'm going to take this one a little bit more casually tonight because, well, I want to enjoy putting something together. I want to do this on stream and just kind of, continue to build this thing. And I also want to continue to talk some news because there were some interesting things that happened this week that I do want to give my 2 cents on. But we'll slowly roll into that. So from what I've heard, there's a bunch of new stuff coming out that I actually need to catch up on. There's Mushoku Tensei that I am easily very behind on. When it comes to Core 2, I haven't touched it yet. The one thing I did sit down and watch this week was Delicious in Dungeon. And that one has been absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. Let me zoom that in there so that the mic is a little bit closer to me. And try to adjust here. There we go. We'll continue on. Hold on a second. For now, I gotta check something. It's been very fun, I guess I could say, to see all of the shit that's gone on as far as like communities fighting back against corporate overlords. Give me a second. Save that. Go back over. Okay. All right, we're going to continue. It's been interesting to see all of the fighting about basically people getting sick of corporate overlords doing whatever the fuck they want. Because now it's hit Warhammer as well. One of the most lore-rich properties that you could possibly come across. Now, I'm not a Warhammer fan. I don't really follow anything but some occasional posts I see about Warhammer. It seems like an interesting property. It's one of those things where like there's so much freaking lore to get into, so much reading you got to do in order to catch up that like it's a monumental task in and of itself to just try and be a part of that community at this point. Sure, you can get into it slowly. You don't have to get into the lore, but I'm not so much into the style of tabletop that Warhammer is. So, like, if I were to get into it, it would be entirely for the story, which intrigues me. And at this point, I have no faith that the companies running that game are going to be loyal to their own writing. And I will get to the importance of that decision that they've made later. I did get some manga this week, and it has arrived. And I'm excited to read that. For some reason, I was under the impression that I had purchased the latest volume of Dandadan, because that series is great. But no, I got myself a copy of the 11th issue of My Dress Up Darling. If you don't know what that is, it was a great slice of life series that came out a couple of years ago at this point, I think. And it wasn't supposed to get a sequel, but it was so popular that I think they've kind of been forced to do a sequel season. Which, yay, they're actually going to give it the attention it deserves. But hold on a second. I am doing the wrong thing here. So there's that. We got to go over to here. Okay. There we go. It's a good series. I got another couple volumes of Dark Gathering. Unfortunately, like half the series that I'm actively reading and collecting physicals for, we were sold out on the latest volumes. So, like, I just gotta wait in order to get those and catch up. Womp, freaking womp. I want to catch up on Dandadan, Kaiju number 8. I've been searching forever to try and find a volume number 1 of So I'm a Spider, So What, but apparently trying to get that. Hey, Jam, how you doing? Just chilling tonight, kind of going over the news casually and building a new Batman Lego set that I started this week. So there's that. I also got the latest volume of Solo Leveling, so looking forward to getting into all of that stuff. Now, Kaiju number 8 has released its second episode. That's another thing that I saw. I haven't watched it yet, but I am very interested because I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do about the intro for that series, because we didn't get one last week. And I'm looking forward to it. Am I all caught up on this? Yep. Okay. Now we go into this. So we need this guy. We need one of these little corners. Oops. Got that. And that will go there then. But you know what? This might be a good chance to break into one of tonight's subjects to get to. And that is, as I always do, covering an indie comic project. Because we love independent artists. We love guys who give their all to creating small stories. And I think that this one deserves a bit of a shout out. So this right here is Perfect 10. Now this is the deluxe hardcover edition, which to my knowledge contains all of the books that I have read of this series that are available right now, which is volume 1 through 4. Now this is already backed in, oh man, right? Even after I've this was at 600 when I uploaded it, when I checked it out 30 minutes before the stream. So a couple of people have already gotten in on this shit. Awesome. So Perfect 10 is basically the story of like a superhero killer. Which, hear me out. They are synthetic humans created solely for the purpose of disposing of dangerous metanormals, as they're called, people with superpowers. And, well, some of the villains of the world find out where these people are being stored and decide that they're going to attack and try and destroy the facility. Now, they destroy all but one, who is 10. She's the only survivor of that whole raid. And it basically is just constant chaos and action after that. It's a really fun read, actually. But this basically compiles the first 4 versions of the book into a hardcover, like, deluxe volume, which is cool. I like the stuff. And the artwork's good. I mean, the main character is a sexy lady, so obviously, why wouldn't you want this? Here's the actual artwork inside. This is from the first book I recognize. This is 10 here. And these are some of the superpowered villains. Basically, the dude who created these superpowered synthetic humans, and yeah, so on and so forth. You get the point. But basically, what's for sale here is you get all 4 volumes for $48, for about $48, 45 pounds, which means you're paying about $12 for each one, which isn't terrible when it comes to an indie comic. Then you can keep scrolling down and you can get the signed version for close to $50 more. Which, if you're into that kind of thing, I can respect it, okay? But I don't know if I want to pay almost $100 for this thing. Now, for $140, you can get you can get the signed copy plus a head sketch of whatever character you request. Which, again, if you're into that thing, that's perfectly cool. And then for $190, you get plus a personal character commission by the artist for this one. So basically, just offering a bunch of like artistic perks and stuff on there. It's a good story. So if you like superhero stuff and you're tired of like the constant rebooting and the difficulty of getting into mainstream comics, it's fun. It's enjoyable. It's a decent read. It's a good read, actually. I very much enjoyed Perfect 10, and I do recommend that if you can find the individual books, you don't have to get the hardcover deluxe version. You do check it out and take the chance to see what it has to offer, because frankly, I think it's decently worth it. It's the thing about indie comics in general, though, is they tend to be more expensive, which is sad, but I'm perfectly willing. I'm more willing to pay more for a decent comic from some guy who's doing a startup than I am in the case of some asshat who is working for Marvel and DC and doesn't give a shit about what he's writing. I'm more likely to pay for a person's passion project, is what I'm saying. So I'm okay with the higher price. I'm okay with paying more to buy from people who I know actually want to sell me a good story. Go. Okay, what is this going to do for me? It wants to go like this. Okay, it wants to form like a T plus one of these. Okay. Let me get some light on here. It's these guys, like such. Okay, there we go. And then again, I guess. All right. Yeah, I mean, I've been working on a video all this week, but just to sort of talk YouTube stuff, I've been working on a video all this week about certain problems that may or may not affect the anime industry in the near future. And it's kind of delving into like the financial, the work culture stuff. It's been some fun research. It's been a very rewarding video to actually make. Like, I am happy with it. And in terms of videos, like my free reign video, my Kaiju number 8 video, ended up popping off way more than I fucking expected them to. Like, the amount of views that both of those got, like, I am grateful to everyone who decided to tune in and just like, because for a while there, it genuinely felt like I was just wasting time doing nothing on my channel, spinning my wheels. Because at the end of the season there, I got absolutely wrecked in viewership. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do this whole YouTube thing, how to attract regular viewers. Sad reality is that if I want to grow this channel, my best bet is to just cover the or just constantly cover like the new stuff that's coming out, which I ain't exactly opposed to. I do that a little bit right now, but I don't get a whole lot of recurring viewers by doing that. Which means I need to add value to my projects. I need to actually like give people something that separates me from the rest of the crowd. But in order to do that, I got to find some things that I'm actually, interested in. And with my work schedule, I can't keep up with the bigger anime channels doing their coverage of the new stuff. Especially with the work week that I've been dealing with, because I got to work tomorrow. Yay me. So fun. That's going to need a sticker. Let's shift that out in the open a little bit there. So now we get that guy and that guy. And now we need number 61. All right, let's get that sticker. Shit. I need that. Oh, come on, man. All right, there we go. Sticker time. Sticker time. I always hated these. Stickers that they made you put on these pieces. Like, couldn't you fucking do it yourselves? Probably just not worth it. All right. We're getting there. We are getting there. Okay. So now we got that. And that. Goes like that. Sweet. Beautiful. All right, let's pull up another topic, and I can go over that while I build. Let's start with the most insane topic that we have got for the night. And this one is... it's just bizarre. All right, let me pull this up. Present. Share screen. Here we go. So, an AI company has been generating porn with gamers' idle GPU time in exchange for Fortnite skins and Roblox gift cards. So, yeah, just based off that title, that's pretty fucking insane right off the bat. But the story goes into some interesting detail about what's actually going on with this one. So, scrolling down, if you've got a powerful GPU in your machine, it may seem like a bit of a waste to leave all the computing power sitting in the background, doing relatively little at idle. In which case, Salad, a company that offers game codes, gift cards, and other items in exchange for users' GPU resources, might seem like a reasonable way to put your machine to work. Now, this is something that I didn't even know was like a thing, that you could rent out your GPU like this. Would I trust another company or another entity with my computer, with access to my computer and all that? Fuck no, I wouldn't. So I wouldn't have even been getting into this shit to begin with. But we'll dive into this weird part here in a second. So yeah, this is where we start talking about the weird. However, by default, the software settings opt users into generating adult content, which, if you don't know what adult content is, it's porn. They are using, the people are basically renting out their GPUs to other companies to generate porn. Like the fuck? That's just fucking whack. Take a drink. An option exists to configure workload types manually, which enables users to uncheck the adult content workloads. However, this is easily missed in the setup process, which I duly tested for myself to confirm. Yeah, I figured as much the way they were talking about it. The way that it's automatically set to... They said that it's automatically set to enable generating adult content rather than it automatically generates adult content, which means you can turn it off if you really want to. Still, it's kind of a scummy way to go about it, if you ask me. Need number 55, huh? There we go. Sticker time. Sticker time. There we go. So in the Salad Discord, moderators maintain that the adult content workloads option is unchecked by default, and that any stable diffusion image generation job is automatically considered adult content. When several users asked whether they would generate less money on Salad with the setting off, it was explained that there might be times where you earn a little less if we have high demand for certain adult content workloads, but we don't plan to make those companies the core of our model. So basically, what they're saying is, yeah, we'll make more money if you let us generate porn with your computer, but we don't want that to be the center part of it. So on the Salad website, the company explains that some workloads may generate images, text, or videos of a mature nature, and that any adult content generated is wiped from a user's system as soon as the workload is complete. This funny generalization around sexually explicit content creation is likely because Salad is unable to view and moderate images created through its platforms, and is thereby covering its bases by marking all image generation as adult in general. Yeah, and sometimes the image generation just fucks up. So there was a time where um a friend of mine was fucking around with this stuff, and he was like basically gonna create like the ideal anime waifu using AI and all that. And I was just messing around with him. I told him to look up Nami from One Piece. So he typed that into the AI generator, and the AI generator popped out something with just tits hanging out. It was kind of funny, but I get where they're coming from because at times they either they can't control what people are inputting. I'm guessing is part of it, but they also can't control what is getting put out of it. So yeah, that's a thing. Um, However, one of Salad's clients is Civet AI, a platform for sharing AI generated images, which has previously been investigated by 404 Media. It found that the service hosts generating AI models of specific people, whose image can then be combined with pornographic AI models to generate non consensual sexual images. Yeah, that's kind of fucked. It's pretty fucked up if you ask me. I'll share the link to the investigation here, but as a content warning, the subjects discussed are very sexually graphic in nature. Yeah, I won't be clicking on it. A spokesperson for Civet AI told 404 that Salad handles a portion of image generation depending on the time of day. We scale our service with them depending on the amounts of demand. Given the connection, there seems to be a high likelihood that Salad's users have been generating AI pornography for the site. Well, this all feels remarkably grubby, doesn't it? There's something about the combination of AI porn generation in exchange for vouchers in games frequently played by children and young adults that really gets the hackles raised, particularly as the option to disable it is far from obvious. Yes, that is probably the single biggest issue you can raise with this, and one that if they didn't get into, I was going to by the end of this. Like these are all creations that are largely, or these are all like rewards that are largely generated for games that younger kids play. We're done there. Hold on a second. We got a sticker. Sticker! Where is my cursor? Switching between two computers. Or not two computers, two screens. 13. What is 13? Ah. It's the Joker fish. So shout out to the Great Pilgrim for giving me this little tip about putting the stickers on. Because holy crap, has it made my life easier. Jokerfish. If you haven't seen Batman the Animated Series, that probably makes zero fucking sense to you. And that's okay. Basically, the Joker infected a bunch of fish with laughing gas and tried to sell them on the open market. Batman the Animated Series, it's wonderful. Back to the article. The creation of non-consensual sexual imagery for real-life people strikes as particularly deplorable, while also using the machines of children and rewarding said children for doing that. And in combination with the level of abstraction here means that many may well have been generating this content on their own machines with no explicit knowledge of what they were signing up for. The internet can be gross sometimes. That's about where I want to leave this. Let me remove that, and we will stop sharing the screen. So, we'll get back to this. Now we will bring in the larger portion of what we've been working on tonight. And we will install the latest piece in the diorama. So, for those of you at home who are not here in person, I will show you what we're looking at so far. We've got that, but also inside is the Batcave, the Batmobile. I'm fucking loving this so far. Whoo boy! So yeah, that's the thing. And now I need to find number 7. So before I get into the rest of this, I will we'll just have a casual chat here. We'll talk about what's going on here. So it's the internet is evolving in some ways that are just fucking weird. Now we knew everything was like could be like degenerate and people could get into some really weird stuff. And this is why you need to like protect your kids, protect anyone who is a minor or under your guardianship from the bullshit of the internet. I think internet safety is going to be something that needs to be taught to kids because, well, there is a lot of ignorance going around about what can actually fucking happen. And part of that is prompted by I was listening into the Full Aussie today. And they were covering a particularly interesting figure in internet lore called Chris Chan. Now, if you don't know who that is, go look up in detail. Go look it up, okay? I won't say in detail because some of that stuff is just fucking wild. But in short, an autistic guy who set himself up for a lot of bullying in the early internet days. He really didn't make it easy on himself. But basically, in the early days of the internet, his parents were like negligent about protecting their autistic son from the consequences of being overly involved in the net. And a lot of people are like, nowadays too are kind of content to just let their kids on the machine and not pay attention to what they're up to or what they're doing. And this is the results. Now, it's not like the children are being directly exposed to this shit. This is probably one of the more gray area things you can get into when it comes to internet shenanigans. But it shows, because someone my age, I'm 24. Someone my age would see that and be like, yeah, I don't trust you getting into my computer and using my GPU. That shit's kind of suspicious, okay? But a kid sees you can get Roblox gift cards and Fortnite skins. Of course they're going to sign up. So from a certain angle, it's pretty predatory to do that. Like that shit should be considered kind of predatory. It's also interesting that they're involved with non-consensual sexual imagery being created. So, yeah, this is just all around scummy, but it could be far worse. That's the issue. This kind of predatory shit could be far worse, which is why people need to protect their kids while they're on the internet. They need to monitor what the fuck is going on. Not to the point of being like a helicopter parent or all that, but you definitely need to be careful with impressionable kids who can be deceived easily like this, because it's kind of predatory shit. There's a reason that it's illegal to target children. Or at the very least, there's a reason it's frowned upon. I'm pretty sure it's illegal. That said, I think that wraps up that segment. So now I need to find number 7. $40, $32, $36, and I need to organize these at some point. 20. Fuck, where is it? 15. 24. You know what? I'll just swing around like this and we will. 41. 22. 26. 25. 23. 31. 35. 28. There's 34. Fuck, where is this piece that I'm freaking... But 17. Don't think I'll get that far tonight. Finally found it. Number 7. Number 7. There are 41 of these bags, dude. 41. So we'll get rid of that. We'll go into the Lord of the Rings one next, but I'm going to take a bit to chill out. We'll talk about something a little bit less disheartening, I guess you could say. Small pieces. There we go. All right. Start here. So Adding a new segment. So Transformers 1 came out, or the trailer came out. And I gotta say, look, I'm no big Transformers fan. I wasn't into the comics, I didn't buy all the toys and stuff. I kind of enjoyed the Michael Bay movies until they started getting into like the later ends of those movies. One, two, and three, I was interested in. But after that, they all just continued to get really kind of eh. So seeing this trailer, I was intrigued enough to at least try and check it out because it's supposed to be an animated project. The unfortunate reality of it is that it's just kind of an okay animation and meh writing. So from what I've heard from Transformers fans that I know, like it does a decent job of pulling from lore. However, it shows a very like clear Hollywood bias with the humor. Its sense of humor sucks, if I'm being entirely honest. Like it tries to do the whole quirky, ha 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 ha, Guardians of the Galaxy kind of shit. But it doesn't land well because you know what? People are getting fucking sick of it, and I can't blame them. So as far as from an animation standpoint, it didn't look too bad. 51. Where is 50? 51. There we go. Oop. It was mildly interesting in the form of its animation, but its writing was just not there. I wasn't interested in the writing. Oh, we got stuff to do. So we need this guy, and this guy. So there, completed that. Now I have to go here, here, and we do that. And that. Go here. Da, da, Turk alert, We did it, boys. Save Bikini Bottom. There we go. Okay. So let's bring up another topic. One where we can get into some interesting bullshittery. So I know this article was released a while back, but it was recently updated. And honestly, that brought it to my attention that I don't do nearly enough Lord of the Rings content over here because Lord of the Rings is fucking awesome. Mind you, Lord of the Rings is a great movie series. And you should definitely watch it, and you should definitely read yourself some fucking books, okay? But because Amazon's Rings of Power has failed to I guess you could say it has failed to properly capture the property for activists. They have now taken to attacking Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy because Jackson actually did a good fucking job of making a series, of making those movies. And they got to do anything they can to prove that their idiot culture warriors didn't muck up the job of making of an easy layup, of making an easy project that would appease fans. Like all they had to do was make the War of the Last Alliance, and they would have been golden. But no, that's not what they wanted to do. They wanted to entirely rewrite Lord of the Rings, and that'll be something we can get into in a little bit. Go. So yeah, let's scroll down here. So despite being a significant benchmark in fantasy epics, J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings franchise hasn't entirely stood the test of time. Okay, let's see what they have to say about this. Is largely responsible for modern fantasy. Tolkien's idea to make a fairy story written for and read by adults proved to be incredibly popular, and his work continues to live on today. However, like many books that came out of the 1950s, some elements of Tolkien's work haven't aged particularly well. We're going to see what they have to say. We're going to see, like, I looked at some of these reasons. Some of them are outright retarded. So a franchise having outdated elements doesn't mean that they are bad things. Just because certain elements of Lord of the Rings have fallen out of fashion in contemporary literature doesn't mean that they can't still be enjoyed. However, some parts of the book and the beloved films have aged poorly because they are problematic and offensive in ways that went uncorrected at times. This list has been updated to meet CBR's current formatting guidelines. Okay, so let's see what bullshittery they have to talk about. So, Return of the King's many endings. All right, so Return of the Kings may be considered to be one of the greatest book to screen adaptations of all times, even going on to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, but it isn't perfect. One of the few things that viewers consistently find annoying about the films is its ending, which drags on and on despite numerous scenes that could have been terrific closing moments. After the main plot wraps up, Return of the King fades to black twice, only to return again and again. Another ending comes as Frodo, Bilbo, and Gandalf join the elves in the Undying Lands, this time fading to white. Even then, the film refuses to finish with one additional scene depicting Sam Shire before finally rolling the credits. So basically, you just didn't like that they were taking their time in wrapping things up. Sounds about right. I don't think that's something that's aged poorly. Like, that's just bullshit right there. To say that that is an aging poorly issue. No, what it is you being a fucking nitpick freak. You don't like the idea that it continued on a little longer than you would have liked. All right. There's that. There's that. Tie these together. Right. Sorry, I'm intensely focused on what I'm doing here. All right, back to the article. So, there are some unpopular changes from the books. Again, that's not a reason to say that it's aged poorly. Like, if you're going to try and make the argument that it aged poorly, you have to give us some reason that, like, is legitimate. Sorry. Big sneeze. And I'm tired. Okay, so that goes like that. Like that. And there we go. That. Which connects us here. Interesting. All right. It doesn't end. Okay, look. Back to the article after I put. Okay, pieces on. So there are some unpopular changes from the book. That's not an aging poorly thing. Aging poorly would be something like we fell out of love with it. Like, that's just a straight up. You're trying to make it seem like the movie got worse over time. You know what? I think the movie actually has gotten better as I've gotten older and learned to enjoy it more. I think it's aged fucking amazingly, like fine fucking wine. But please, oh please, CBR, tell me why this means that it's aged poorly. Yes, they took Tom Bombadil out. You want to know why? Because it would have made the movie way too fucking long. So one of the most consistent complaints about the Lord of the Rings movies is that certain characters from the books are cut out entirely. And characters like Tom Bombadil are left out of the movies, whereas others, like Glorfindel, have their roles significantly decreased. At the time, the absence of such characters was seen as a necessary sacrifice in order to fit the wide-scoping story of the Lord of the Rings into the three movies. However, in the age of streaming, many book adaptations are finding themselves capable of padding their runtime with characters and stories from the original, or characters and stories from the original stories. As a result, the absence of certain characters in The Lord of the Rings becomes more unsatisfying over time. Bish, the fuck you talking about? No. You want to know what's happening right now? People are sick of movies being grossly overindulgent on time. They don't want people don't want people don't want their movies to be pretentiously fucking long all the time, okay? What they want is a movie that is properly timed. Lord of the Rings works because it takes the proper amount of time to tell that fucking story. Again, this isn't something that's about aging poorly. That's your fucking opinion. But these are the more reasonable ones that they're getting. Important scenes are missing in the theatrical cut. Well, yeah, because not everyone wants to sit through the extended cut. Which now the extended cut is available, so the theatrical cut, the movies are still great. So, in the Lord of the Rings fan base, there exists a major division between those who prefer the theatrical cut of the films and those who prefer the extended editions. As long as the extended editions they include some important scenes that help explain the story better. If viewers only watch the theatrical cut, however, they will miss major plot points. The most notorious example is the unfortunate trend is the end of Saruman the White. In the extended edition, Saruman is killed in the opening scene of Return of the King. The theatrical cut, however, makes no mention of his gruesome demise, leaving the uninitiated viewer completely unaware of his fate. I watched these movies when I was like 12, and I tuned in pretty well to was my first experience with Lord of the Rings. I tuned in pretty well to the fact that Saruman was fucking dead. The funniest part about this to me is that people need their hands held for them way less than this article seems to think. Like a 12-year-old me could figure it out, your adult ass should be able to figure it out too, okay? Oh, it's supposed to be like that. Okay. I see how it is. And there we go. Okay. Move on to another item. So The Hobbit changes aspects of the original trilogy. You know, a lot. Okay. This is another, like, kind of bullshit one. Because people didn't like The Hobbit for a lot of reasons. It wasn't as good as the original Lord of the Rings. This doesn't mean that the original Lord of the Rings aged poorly. What it means is that the Hobbit movies were bad. The prequel trilogy condenses the timeline of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, as in the case with many prequels, the Hobbit films have a negative impact on the Lord of the Rings trilogy itself, taking place decades before the events of Fellowship of the Ring. The three Hobbit movies attempt to set up the events of the original trilogy, but ultimately make the franchise's timeline more confusing. The Hobbit trilogy adds storylines, including one where Gandalf, Saruman, Elrond, and Galadriel face off against a mysterious necromancer who turns out to be Sauron himself. While they emerge victorious, they are still aware that Sauron remains a threat. Saruman's sabotage excluded, this storyline makes some of the Lord of the Rings' wisest characters seem foolish, as they whittle away the next several decades when they could have been preparing for Sauron's inevitable return. So my issue with this aspect of it is the idea that like a bad trilogy then ages out the existing project, which, if we're being very real here, people are going to prefer the better one stay canon. In this, the better one be the standard bearer, I should say. People prefer the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and they forget about the fact that The Hobbit exists. Like, that's just the nature of it. Here we go. I still don't agree with this. Just because the trilogy came in and made some mistakes, that's not the fault of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's the fault of The Hobbit. So this is not an issue with, the Lord of the Rings itself. This one is utter bullcrap. The Lord of the Rings will inevitably be rebooted. That does not mean it's aged poorly. I shouldn't even have to address this one, but because they're talking about the Amazon's Rings of Power, I have to get into it because, Christ, this is an abortion. In an age of constant remakes and reboots, it is unfortunately inevitable that almost every popular franchise will be reborn in the next few years. The Harry Potter series has already been confirmed for a Max reboot. That doesn't age out the old Harry Potter. That doesn't mean it's aged poorly. With Twilight not far behind. I don't know why Twilight's being made, because that was just a shit series from the start. As such, it is only a matter of time before The Lord of the Rings itself is rebooted as well. If they're smart, no, they won't. They will leave it with Jackson's masterpiece of a creation, and they won't fuck too much with the series. Because you have to be one dumb motherfucker to try and top what Jackson did with that. So while reboots occasionally improve on the originals, it is very rare that they are as well regarded or as well loved. A film franchise as beloved as The Lord of the Rings, which is the pinnacle of book-to-screen adaptation, doesn't need to be rebooted. In fact, any remake would be highly unlikely to win the affection of audiences the same way that the originals did. Yet with the Lord of the Rings spin-off series already airing and works in development, a full Lord of the Rings reboot is already a foregone. You don't lay out any argument as to how that makes it aged poorly. That isn't an argument as to why Lord of the Rings has aged poorly. What it is an argument to not reboot something that was already good to begin with. Does that not occur to you? Oh, Lord. Oh, sticker. this. Crap, I need that thing. There it is. Fuck. Where is it? Sticker. Ta-da. Ta-da. All right. So, yeah, the idea that a reboot somehow means that the property is worse. No, what it means is that you've just done something stupid out of hubris because you wanted money based off of the love for that franchise. Like, you don't need to reboot The Lord of the Rings. You just need to know how to capitalize on the fact that people fucking love those movies. Reboots should exist only in the case where, oh boy, some more stickers here. Only in the case where reboots should exist only in the case where the original falls way, way short. And they feel like they can actually do something good with it. But fortunately, these idiots don't seem to think that when it comes to the Lord of the Rings, that they're good as is. Because as we'll see later in this article, they have some interesting critiques of the movies and of Tolkien's work by proxy. All right, Elijah Wood's acting in some scenes is awkward. Okay, now finally, we have a bit of a fair criticism. So, The Lord of the Rings had a star-studded cast, sparkling performances by the likes of Ian McKellen and Viggo Mortensen. Made the movies iconic, and they are as they are considered today. However, when rewatching the Lord of the Rings movies, one notices Elijah Wood's acting as Frodo Baggins falters more than once. Finally, a fair, legitimate criticism. There were some awkward moments when Elijah Wood's performance as the beloved Hobbit seemed forced and even comical. Like when Frodo collapsed after Gandalf sacrificed himself in his battle with the Balrog. His acting leaned towards the dramatic of constantly screaming and being in pain, which got old quickly. Elijah Wood was great as Frodo, but some of these moments detracted from his performance. Okay, well, this one really depends on how you view the whole acting as a whole, as to whether it's aged poorly or not. Because if, by today's standards, acting as a whole is much better, then yeah, perhaps it has aged poorly. But on the other hand, if acting is about the same, it hasn't really changed much. And this is just a straight up criticism of the film. So again, it really comes down to whether or not oh boy, where did that go? There we go. Found it. That's a criticism that really comes down to whether or not acting has gotten significantly better or worse. Which I don't think it's really changed much. There have always been good actors, especially since these were made, and there have always been bad actors. Some people will outshine other people more, and sometimes acting won't be as good. That's just the nature of it, okay? It's just the nature of these things. All right. We can now take these. That. Alrighty. And we can give ourselves so we have our N and we are going to make it white. It's not a racial thing. It's just how it is, okay? Get over it. Ta-da, okay. We're good. Oh. Oops. Seems like I forgot something. Those there. Move those out of the way. All right. So, moving on. Certain visual effects look clunky. Weta FX provided the CGI for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, this is actually something that has legitimately aged poorly. The CGI is just not as good as CGI today, and it does look kind of eh. That being said, these were made like 20 years ago. So obviously, when it comes to tech, things are going to age out. So congratulations, you got one correct. This one actually did age poorly. The only thing that has aged poorly, the visual effects. So I don't even need to read through the reason because I actually do agree with that one. So random characters show up momentarily. The Lord of the Rings includes some characters from the Silmarillion. So the Silmarillion and some of Tolkien's other writings, which were compiled into the History of Middle-earth, cover a lot of the world's history. Some characters from these writings, notably the elf Glorfindel, make minor appearances in the Lord of the Rings, but barely influence the plot before leaving. Tolkien fans love these cameos, but many modern readers are frustrated by them. Readers of contemporary fantasy, like A Song of Ice and Fire, are used to characters sticking around and making surprising contributions to the overall plot. Though this element of Tolkien's writings may have aged poorly in novel form, having cameos from random characters seems to work for other franchises like Marvel. So, in other words, they followed the theme and spirit of the writer's creation and did things that were dedicated to it, and therefore that makes age 4. This one, okay, I can legitimately see where you're coming from. Now, when a character is introduced, people get a bit upset that they might not be used. But Tolkien's creation was for pure escapism, pure enjoyment. It was supposed to be a story. It wasn't supposed to be something that was incredibly, like, complex with a ton of moving gears. It was just something he wanted to write. The heroes seem invincible. Boromir is the only member of the Fellowship of the Rings to permanently die in Lord of the Rings. Okay, that's just a dumb reason here, because there are a lot of series where everyone's immortal. Like, The Lord of the Rings largely centers on a war, and a war veteran writes, this is just a nitpick of the freaking story, and a war veteran writes them. Considering these facts, it's strange that none of the main characters die. In fact, the only member of the Fellowship to die a permanent death is Boromir. Of course, a character doesn't have to die to be affected by war. Tolkien himself knew that very well. However, modern audiences, have the perception that characters dying and other dark elements make a world of fiction more realistic. Well, that's not what Tolkien was trying to do. He was creating a fantasy, a fairy story. And just because not a lot of characters die doesn't mean that the story is aging poorly. Like, hell, Naruto, not a lot of the main characters die. Okay? A lot of them seem immortal, especially when they probably should have died. Same with, like, Bleach and all that kind of stuff. Some readers may feel that the story where all the main heroes survive is outdated based on what they experience from newer books. Okay, well, some readers are also fucking retarded. Some main characters lack agency. Merry and Pippin have the least agency of the Fellowship. Okay. Contemporary readers like their principal characters to have agency in their story, and characters who don't are often maligned. A good example might be Twilight's Bella Swan, who many readers disliked due to her passive role in the narrative. Okay, well, sometimes those passive characters are important. In The Two Towers, Merry and Pippin are largely passive characters. They begin the book being captured by a pack of orcs and stay that way until the Rohirrim kill the orcs and allow Merry and Pippin to escape with little effort. Later, they become passive observers of the Ents' destruction of Isengard. Well, they also helped facilitate that. He just completely cut out a part where Merry and Pippin are the kind of like motivators to start that whole thing. Talk about fucking cherry picking. Even the team behind the Two Towers film adaptation thought that modern audiences would be unhappy with this depiction of the hobbits and updated their story to make them a bit more involved. Story takes a while to get started. Well, yeah, because it does a lot of fucking storytelling is what it does. The Lord of the Rings movies lack diversity. I will dismiss this one by saying this was supposed to be a history of England. That's why it fucking lacks diversity. It was about the English fucking people. I'm going to ignore that because movies didn't cast any black actors to depict these varied characters. Yes, again, because this wasn't about this. The casting of BIPOC actors contribute. Diversity of cinema is more important than ever. No, it's not. In fact, people don't even fucking care about it. Only you care about it. The casting of BIPOC actors contributes to increasing visibility and acceptance for all kinds of stories, and not just ones about white people. Well, guess what? This was a story that was supposed to be about white people. Believe it or not, The Lord of the Rings was written about the English people as a history of England, an alternate history of England. Thus, it was largely white, because who largely occupied England? White people. This is the most fucking monglet retard bullshit. Even if Lord of the Rings was inspired greatly by Norse and British myth, there was a way to make it more diverse in the movies. As seen in Lord of the Rings of Power television series. Bro, you do not want to say that the Rings of Power did something better. Rings of Power was nothing but Biff after fucking Biff in a story. It was straight up dog shit awful. So, the final scene in Return of the King needed more words. One of the concluding scenes of the Lord of the Rings trilogy depicted Frodo seeing Gandalf again in Return of the King. And then meeting the rest of the Fellowship. Compared to the rest of the movie, this scene was peculiar since all the characters were only laughing in slow motion with no words being said to each other. Guess what? Not everyone needs fucking dialogue like you. Rub your two brain cells together and just read the room. Understand the emotion. Empathize with people. The slow motion lasted far too long, which made it a bizarre watch. The ending had a lot of heart, and much was communicated between the characters without words, but these individual elements came together. Well, now you're just being facetious, dude. Some races have been typecast. It is implied that every orc and goblin in Lord of the Rings is evil. Gee, it's almost like orcs were meant to be creatures corrupted by evil, things manifest by evil to specifically be evil. In the Lord of the Rings, there are certain races depicted as universally evil, which is a cringy fantasy. No, because you don't pay a fucking attention to the lore. The orcs, the uruks, and the goblins, for instance, only appear as evil antagonists, which homogenizes an entire species in a rather boring manner. Tolkien said nothing is evil in the beginning, which is a good sentiment. However, when Lord of the Rings portrays every character from a race as evil, it indulges in a binary way of thinking which lacks nuance. Even if the races depicted are fantasy races, the idea that a group of people was all born with the same immutable qualities is outdated. Someone has clearly never read Lord of the Rings lore. Now, generally, how you would say something has aged poorly is just the idea that, like, while the technology and the acting and the writing has aged poorly. None of that has been present here. They've all been complaining about how ideas have changed. And, well, not none of that. Some of it. They talk about how the CGI, that's like legitimate, like one of the only like things I truly agree with about this article. But this last one is just insane. Either way, the orcs, the uruks, they are all literally forces of evil. Orcs aren't born. They are created. They are elves, and in the case of the uruks, they are men corrupted by the power of evil, subjugated by it, made to be evil. Well, how can you portray Satan and demons as evil? So Tolkien's world features very few women. No female main characters interact through the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Lord of the Rings is largely a story about male characters. Gee, it's almost like men go to war. The female characters in Tolkien's story are largely sidelined or defined by their relationships with men in the story. It's almost like it was a medieval society where that was kind of a thing. By today's standards, this type of storytelling doesn't really hold up. What do you mean? This type of storytelling is still one of the most loved cinematic fucking, oh, this storytelling doesn't hold up. Well, guess what? It's still one of the most beloved set of movies ever created. So clearly it does hold up. Similar to ensuring there is a good representation across races, it is also important for media to portray characters of multiple genders. Though Tolkien includes some great moments for his female characters, notably Eowyn slaying the Witch King, the women don't feel like individuals with their own lives and goals. So yeah, that's that bullshit. That's that fucking crock of horse shit. Good Lord. These people. All right. Done that. I think I'll go over one last article here and just make it, kill my camera and just go through this really quick, and then I'll just continue building Legos and stuff for however long I feel like. Because it's kind of along the same lines here. So, Screen Rant again. New Crunchyroll fantasy series avoids a major problem plaguing modern anime. So let's go. So Crunchyroll's new fantasy series, Unnamed Memory, initially set itself up to follow in the problematic footsteps of many new anime, but switched gears in time to tread into safer, uncontroversial territory. The subversion is especially relevant now since another new series from Crunchyroll's spring season clearly went the more provocative route in the first 2 episodes that debuted simultaneously. The topic in question is a form of slavery between a male master and a female slave that eventually begets marriage. In Unnamed Memory, the protagonist and crown prince, Oscar, was initially in a position of power that could have forced a witch named Tanasha to become his wife. However, instead of Oscar exercising that sway over Tanasha, the episode ends with Tanasha agreeing of her own free will to spend 1 year with Oscar in an unwed capacity to see if she would like to marry him. This proves that the controversial subject, so popular in modern anime, can easily be avoided without... exercise violence against Tanasha when she threatens to erase his memories, and since he was armed with a sword that could overcome her magic, Oscar could easily have dominated her and thus forced her into submission. And yet Oscar is clearly a more morally inclined individual than modern protagonists who find themselves in a similar position. He not only offers to devise a more palatable option. Okay. So basically what they're complaining about in this is the idea that a series would go so far as to, actually allow, not just allow a slavery, but not just that they would allow slavery. It's the fact that they actually show 2 people overcoming that issue and getting along. Right? Here is number 8. So basically what they're complaining about when it comes to Unnamed Memory, or what they're complaining about is the idea that a servant-master relationship can end up with people relying on each other. And this was particularly spawned by, at least where I saw it first, was Shield Hero. The idea of like Naofumi taking in Ralph Talia as a slave and treating her well, better than she had been treated for a long time, which leads to them having a very strong relationship. I don't see why that's so problematic, because it's a form of storytelling. I think the issue that they have with it is the fact that it just straight up goes into slavery, which is a no-no subject unless you're using it to badmouth certain groups of people. It's the only time you're ever allowed to talk about slavery is when you use it to shit all over a specific group of people for it. In spite of the fact that slavery has been around for centuries and it has been practiced by just about every freaking culture. Regardless of race. And my issue with the way they treat this is that it's never really like, oh no, a man forced a woman to do something. That is sexism. But it's totally empowering and cool if a man were to be forced to do something by a woman. Which is just, fucking horseshit. There. And I'm going to focus more on putting Legos together in this time period now for a little while as I discuss the last of this. Because here I'm going to start, babbling on about another random topic, the last one that I will get to tonight, after I go through this, after I, do some commentary on this really quick. These people just want to control what everyone else can experience in fiction. It's never actually been about, it's never actually been about like correcting problematic issues. Because they're fucking hypocrites. They don't fucking care. What it's about is being in control and being able to tell people not to do certain things. All right. I see. They're tourists. They don't actually give a fuck. But tourists are going to be tourists. So, like, what essentially ends up being the problem here? Well, that lady character didn't get agency. Why is that a problem? Well, because women should have agency. Okay, well, if it was a male character, if the roles were reversed, would you care? Probably not. They would consider it empowering. I mean, they considered Galadriel empowering for basically making a bunch of people submit to her. Everyone in the media fucking CO clapped for Galadriel for God knows how long. Even though the original Galadriel was so much better. It's a bunch of fucking stupidity, dude. Like, can't you see absolutely retarded you've been? I think it's probably a good point at which I can start getting a bit into the lore thing. Because I'm bored. I just want to focus on Legos, and I'm just going to ramble on about something here. So we've seen this quite a bit here in recent days with the destruction of Warhammer lore. That tourists just don't give a fuck about your lore. Well, why does it matter that they've made these changes? It's not that bad, is it? It's not that big of a deal. Why do you care? Well, first of all, why did you care enough to change it? Well, let me point some things out for those of you who don't understand the writing world very well. Lore is effectively your credit line as a writer. Let me put it to you this way. If someone decided that they were going to tell you a story, okay? And in that story, they asserted that everything they said was absolutely 100% the truth, right? And they continued on like that for quite a while. And then one day, they tell you, I should move this more front and center so you can see what's going on here. There we go. And I will take this and set it over here. So back to what I was saying. If someone continued to tell you the same story over and over again, asserting that each time that this was absolutely the truth of the matter and that you should trust them on it, something doesn't seem right there. Okay, well, whatever. I will try to get that off. And then, so someone's telling you that a certain thing about a certain fandom is true, okay, or a certain story is true, 100% all the time. Like, it is absolutely the truth. This is how it happened. This is correct. Imagine now said person suddenly changed their story to the point of contradiction. After asserting to you that they were in fact telling the truth and nothing but the truth the whole time. Would you be very forgiving towards that person when it comes to calling them out on their bullshit? You would start to trust them less. That's effectively the issue that we're looking at here. I'm sorry. Just got a message. Yeah, just some random bullshit. That's the issue with lore. Because people take your lore, or as a writer, to be history, to be factual, to be a part of the story. Lore enriches a world by adding more facts and details that end up being important to a project. So, what happens when you contradict that lore? When you retcon that lore? When you decide that that lore is no longer important? Well, you start to destroy your own credit as a writer. Why? Because people trust you to tell a story. And they trust you to tell it in a manner that matters. Ugh. They expect you to be sincere with them, to tell them the whole story, and to respect their time and investment in your story. And when you waste their time by effectively lying to them, because really, that's what the destruction of lore ends up being. It is a lie to their face. They lose interest. That's the importance of the whole Warhammer debate that's going on right now. Because, and with subsequently with the issues facing the Fallout TV show, a lot of people have said that the Fallout show is well put together but disrespectful to the lore of Fallout. Now, what would I know? Because I am a Fallout normie. I've only ever played 4. 4 was not the greatest of games. And need number 50. Look, when you accidentally decanonize an entire fucking game by destroying lore, and then try to claim that said game is still canon, and that the show that, you know, contradicts it is canon, you're stupid. And that's effectively what Bethesda did. Now, in the case of Warhammer, the issue gets a little bit more nefarious, because with Warhammer, it was done specifically for political reasons that will ultimately destroy that franchise. It was done because people wormed their way into that whole thing, and well, they got a hold of it and they decided that they were going to make changes because they didn't like how the property was managed. The issue is that they've now damaged their own credibility when it comes to storytelling and the important and like trustworthiness from fans. There may be no coming back from what they've done, and they don't even seem to realize just how bad an issue the retconning of lore like that is, which is kind of a funny thing. Because for a group whose whole thing is, you know, about storytelling and all of that, you would suspect they'd actually pay attention to the lore they're working with and like the stories they're telling. But no, they don't care about the actual story. What they end up caring about is control over said story. Oh my god, I am retarded. I've been looking for a piece that doesn't exist. Ta-da. Okay, there. Now I'm good. it's just funny to see, or to me, to see so many writers who don't care about actual like writing skill. They want to say whatever the fuck they can, with no consequence. And it's sad, really, because there's so much great story content out there to enjoy, but they keep wanting to like destroy everything to do with said story content. Why? Because they think it's problematic. That's why they retcon the lore. They don't fucking care about the lore. They care about winning. Again, you destroy your credibility as a writer, as a storyteller, as a franchise when you constantly contradict yourself. I mean, we don't think highly of people who do that in real life. So why would we think highly of a storyteller who does that all the time? We generally don't. And then the people who, hijack a series will go on to say shit like, well, why do you care that they're making this change? The lore isn't real. None of this is real. You shouldn't care. Like, half the reason people invest into a story is because of lore and detail and effort put into making a series what it is. To act as though that's not true is stupid. And to, like, pretty much intentionally destroy that is stupid. Go. Hey, look at that. The bottom line is your lore is important because it shows that you're dedicated to actually telling a story people want to listen to, that you're actually dedicated to a project, and that you're not just going to make shit up on the fly. Of course, that's never mattered for tourists who just want to get their hands on a property. It's never really been an issue for people who only see fiction as a way to spread their own ideology. It's never been something that people particularly want to. I will talk myself in circles for the rest of the night, so I might just call it here. But the point is, respect your lore, because through that, if you don't respect your own lore, and you just change it on a whim because you can, well, you're going to lose credibility. It's the same thing that's destroyed Star Wars. It's the same thing that's destroyed every dying property out there. So, with that said, I'm going to call it for the night because it's been close to 2 hours now. and I just kind of want to relax for the rest of the night because I have work tomorrow, pretty much the next 7 days. Yeah, it's fun. But that said, thanks for your time. Hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. Peace out. Later. Good night.